Hey there, I just wanted to go through the lab report format so that when you sit down to write it, you'll have exactly what you need. So in about 30 seconds or less, I'm going to go over the first half, and then I'll dive a little bit more deeply into the second half. So pretty self-explanatory. The title needs to explain what it is that your experiment was testing. So don't just say yeast lab. Tell me the effects of sugar or varying amounts of sugar on the metabolism of yeast, et cetera, et cetera. So tell me more. Give me a description of what it is I'm going to be reading about. The introduction. This is a crucial part of your lab report. So make sure you take some time and you write a good introduction. Make sure you do some research on the topic that you did an experiment on so that you can introduce me to the information so that I know what I'm reading about, so that I have enough information to go through your lab report and understand what's going on and why you think what's going to happen is going to happen, and so forth. So why is experiment being conducted? This is telling me if I should be looking for bias. Are you working for a private industry that perhaps you might be making money depending on which results you get? So here I would just say that you're doing research for a high school project or something similar to that. And prior knowledge, this is the information that you did research on. So when I say up here MLA format, this doesn't mean double spaced. This doesn't mean the heading. So don't have the heading. Make sure that it's single spaced, just like we have here. The MLA format, I should fix the wording. It refers to the citations. So you're going to want to put internal citations, and you're going to want to cite just below the introduction, so that I can see that you have how many sources you have and which sources you do have, and determine whether or not they're a good source to have. And finally, your hypothesis. And we worked on hypotheses. So if, then, because, make sure it's falsifiable. Make sure that it's testable. Make sure that it's making a prediction. That should be right at the end of your introduction. Materials list should be a bulleted list. Pretty straightforward. And procedure. Remember to make this a reproducible procedure so that other scientists could pick it up and get the exact same results as you have. So if you put water into a test tube, how much water did you put in that test tube? What was the temperature of the water in that test tube, etc., etc. Let's move down to the second half. Let's look at the data observation. So this is where you're putting everything that you collected. You're not breaking anything down here. So pictures that you took. Everything that's going to paint a picture for your data analysis section. So in your data analysis section, you're going to tell me, this is what I believe and this is why I believe it. Refer to this figure. Refer to this graph. So here you are going to put your pictures, you're going to put your data tables, all of your observations, everything that is just straight from collecting data. Don't break it down. Don't put a graph in here because a graph is breaking down data. It's analyzing it. So your graphs are going to go in your data analysis section. Here, so in the discussion, or I should call it the discussion section, not the data analysis section. The discussion section is sometimes termed as the data analysis section. This is what I'm really looking at. This is where I want you to spend the majority of your time. This is showing me that you know how to think, and that's really what I want to see. I want you to be able to communicate scientifically. So this is where you're saying, this is what I believe, and this is why I believe it. Refer to this data. Look at this graph. This is what this graph is saying. So make sure that you don't have any graphs that aren't referred to. Don't just put a graph there and expect me to look at it and break it down and understand what you're saying if you haven't referred to it. You break it down. You discuss it. Make sure everything is clearly labeled, that your graphs have titles, axes, that the type of graph is correct. If it's a bar, is it supposed to be a bar graph? Is it supposed to be a line graph? What are you trying to display here? So maybe you should research the types of graphs and what information go on specific types of graphs. And so this should be a beefy section. This should be a lot of work, and you should demonstrate that you understand the material and explain why you believe your hypothesis was supported or refuted. So this should show that you've done some research and you understand everything that you have put on there. Finally, your conclusion is very simple. Restate the purpose of the hypothesis and of the lab. Make sure that they have been answered sufficiently, and wrap up findings. Don't put a ton of time here. This is quick. This is a quick paragraph. The time that you're going to put is in your discussion. Make sure you read through this all so that you put all of the information in there that is required. This is the format that you should have. So put the bold word here, and then it should be all of your information should be single spaced. And so after your section is done, so you notice the date, it says date, the data observation section is all single spaced, and then there is one space to leave for the next section. That way it's easy to navigate your work. Remember, no header, and notice that all of the data tables are completely labeled. So table 1, what am I looking at? Table 1, and everything is labeled clearly. Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck, and I will see you soon.